Hey everybody, Mike Naso here from podweather.com and an internet partnership radio with the latest on the tropics. Taking a look out there today, we have Tropical Depression Erika, which is likely to dissipate. It's sitting here south of Puerto Rico as a very ill-defined weakening vortex. There is a mid-level circulation here that continues to produce heavy showers over the islands. We have a massive tropical low that just left Africa. This could be Hurricane Fred down the road, but luckily it's looking like it'll probably have a curve out to sea eventually, but it's way too early to talk about that. Now, everybody loves the 1980s. Not everybody. I know I love the 80s. And one thing about the 1980s that you forget, aside from the slasher films and Rambo and Reagan and all that stuff, Mario, you forget that we had a few inactive hurricane seasons that really were inactive. 1982 only had a handful of storms. One was a subtropical storm. We had a weak tropical storm Chris make landfall in Louisiana, and then we had tropical storm Alberto here mess around near Florida. Other than that, it was quiet. Beryl, here's an example of one that comes off of Africa with high hopes, and then just like Anna and just like Erica, completely fizzles. Upper level wind shear. Okay, now that was a big El Nino year, as was 1983. Now we still had two significant storms. We had Hurricane Alicia, Category 3 in Texas, and Hurricane Barry, which was a clone of the future Hurricane Erika from 2003, if you remember, which basically sailed across the Gulf of Mexico, making landfall near the border of Texas and Mexico as a Cat 1. And then we only had two other storms. Okay, and then 1986. There's an example of a season that was very weak. Look at Danielle down here. Starts with high hopes, completely fizzles across the Caribbean. So we could still have some significant activity. We did have a Category 4 hurricane, but right now, as far as Erika is concerned, it's done. It's at 16.7 north, 65.3 west. Winds are down to 35, gusting to 45. Sailing west at 11. Still expected by the Hurricane Center to resume west-northwest and go over Hispaniola and dissipate. But if it keeps up this westerly motion, don't be surprised just to see it continue throughout the Caribbean Sea. 1,007 millibars. And there's the model guidance. Again, you can see so many models initializing it back here in the Caribbean Sea, right near the islands. Others taking it northward. Some making it strong hurricane. But in all likelihood, I think these models, even the BAMs down here, are too far north. It continues to the west. This could just be a tropical wave heading towards the Gulf of Mexico. Could it regenerate? Sure. Will it? Probably not. There's the visible satellite imagery, and there's that exposed weakening vortex right here. You could barely even pick it up, and all the convection here over the islands is part of a mid-level spin. You could see it spinning there, and that is really all that's left of Erika. On the radar, no indication of the circulation, even just a little bit of spiral twisting, but totally exposed. Good news for Puerto Rico is it could be a lot worse with rainfall and winds. Now, off of Africa, this was a wave yesterday that we were watching going, oh man, this could be a monster. Well, look at it now. It is a monster. Convection's way, way down, but look at the way this is just shredding the outflow. It's clearly got a spin to it. If we look at the satellite loop of it over the last few days, you can see there it is now. See, it moved off. It was probably a tropical depression and maybe even a tropical storm when it was over land. We've seen that before. Clearly not one now, but clearly this is going to become our next named storm. I'd be willing to wager some money on that. This could be Fred, it could be a hurricane, could be a major hurricane, given that pattern with it, if upper level conditions in the future allow it to. However, I think the general thinking is that there will be enough troughiness in the Atlantic to eventually help curve this system out to sea, but it's way too early. I mean, way too early. We thought Fabian back in '03 was not going to affect land at all. What happened? Hit Bermuda as a Category 2 or 3 hurricane. So this is, I mean, look at this pattern here. This is a major hurricane type of outflow pattern. So once this gets cooking, if it does, it could be a big system for us to track, but likely not anything for land masses. At least it doesn't look that way yet. There's Erika sitting right here and getting sheared what's left of the convection. You can see we have that troughiness off the east coast causing some thunderstorm activity. There is Jimena over the Baja and the Gulf of California there. Let's get the latest on Hurricane Jimena. There it is on the satellite imagery, looking very, very disorganized. Look at California. You got totally dry, not a shred of convection to help with those wildfires with the rainfall. There's the projected path of Jimenez, 40 miles an hour stationary, 1,004 millibars, and I got to tell you, if this thing were sailing up towards California or even towards Arizona, it could potentially bring some rain to help with those fires, but it's not. It's going to drift around and dissipate and head generally back towards the ocean, and that is bad news for that. There you can see the visible satellite imagery, still showing a good spin, a far cry from the 155 miles an hour it was a few days ago. It really raked as it came in, and it was a solid Category 2 hurricane making landfall. A good friend on the Eastern forum, Josh, chased it from iCyclone, and I got to tell you, he said it was pretty nasty, probably worse than what he experienced in Ike last year in Texas, so nothing to fool around with. It was probably a Cat 5 a few days ago. This is Tropical Depression Duan, and Duan has winds of 35, is forecast to become a typhoon as it moves off to the northeast. And taking a look at the satellite imagery of it, you could definitely say it's getting going there, but very large and ill-organized, but expected to become a typhoon. That'll do it for the tropics this time. I'm Mike Naso. I'll see you next time.